And so what can we do as a community to ensure that journey keeps moving forward? I guess things like Pride and...
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, standing up, being seen. I think, and keep talking to those people, keep that dialogue going, keep talking to those people who do have a different point of view. Because I think when they meet real people, then that's sometimes what changes things. And they say that we are still people of faith, that we haven't walked away from our faith because we're gay. We actually experience grace, we experience the love of God, we're living out the gifts that we're given.
Yeah.
Welcome to Curious Chats and Kind Acts, the podcast that celebrates difference, kindness, and the little things we can all do to make our world a better place. Join me, your host, Sonia, co-founder of the Acts charity, for some open, authentic and fun conversations with lots of interesting, extraordinary, everyday people who are all a little bit different. Prepare to have your curiosity piqued and your heart warmed as we explore the ways we can all make a difference in the world, no matter how small. So get ready to be inspired, uplifted and motivated to be the kindest version of yourself. Let's make the world a kinder place, one conversation at a time.
Hello, and welcome. I hope your day's amazing. I'm chatting to Mark today. He shares his journey of discovering he was gay as an adult and was very involved in his local church. He talks about those first feelings of having to come out to his parents and falling in love. We discuss kindness as a Christian and also tithing or donating money and how it isn't our wealth, we are just custodians of it. We then get a bit deep talking about having kids. Now Mark is so articulate, even when I ask him some pretty challenging and personal questions. And I have learnt loads. And it's quite simple, really. You can't stop being a Christian just because some people tell you it's wrong to be gay. I hope you enjoy this one as much as me, and a massive thanks to Mark for his honest reflections.
Yeah, so I'm Mark Gant, and I work at the university, and I'm also trustee of a charity called Congo Children Trust, also a member of Wesley Methodist Church Centre in Chester, and the Open Table LGBT worship community.
Brilliant. I don't know, we always start when you're young, tell us about little Mark.
Oh wow, oh my goodness. Little Mark, what was he like? Quite introverted, I think. I did a lot of reading. We were really lucky. We lived on the edge of the country. I grew up in Bath. We lived on the edge of the city, so you could just walk straight out into the hills. And I think in those days, people didn't worry so much about children just going out.
You're making yourself sound really old already.
I know, I feel really old as I say it, but you could just go out wandering for an afternoon and nobody really worried.
Yeah, no phones, no mobiles,
phones,
so
just wandering around footpaths. And,
back for your tea.
Back for your tea. Yeah, that's right. Back in time for tea.
Yeah.
So I think, that's what I was like. I think I was quite scared of the world in lots of ways. I think if you're slightly shy as a child, things can feel quite intimidating, can't they? But yeah, I suppose life knocks that out of you, or or knocked it out of me anyway.
Yeah. So you got siblings, or?
Yeah, I've got a brother. Yeah, an older brother. Yeah, he works for a housing charity in Wiltshire. He manages sort of housing projects for people with disabilities. So yeah,
good growing up then. Lots of fun had in the countryside.
Yeah, we weren't very close because he's 6 years older, so we were sort of always at a different stage.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got a sibling that's just sort of in their mid-teens when you're still at primary school, it's just such a different experience, isn't it? A completely different world. So I think we're different characters too. He's kind of more overtly rebellious, so much more into his kind of rock music, his image, if you like, at that stage, and so he was sort of always looking for freedom and left home straight away, but found exactly his vocation, like working with people with disabilities. So that became his. Just from 18, well, almost 18, really. He went on a youth opportunity work placement, and then that was it from then on, basically.
Brilliant.
So,
And what about teenagers then? What are you up to? What you're in school? What are your hobbies?
Yeah.
What are you up to socially at this point?
Yeah, did a lot of Christian stuff really. I went to the local Youth for Christ, which is where there are quite a lot of us, particularly in the sixth form, from different schools. So it's a real chance to be part of a wider group of people. Had some really good nights together. Actually, did some good things. So
in terms of your faith, then, when would you say you became a Christian?
Oh wow, I was quite small, I think. I remember really distinctly one night, just kind of, I was lying in bed, I suppose waiting to go to sleep, and I just had this kind of overwhelming feeling that now was the moment to just make a commitment and get on with it, and just not to wait any longer. I suppose I must have been about 8 or something like that, or 7, I don't know, that kind of age. And I think, at least in my memory, I got out of bed and knelt beside it, but that sounds a bit too cliched, doesn't it? So I don't know if that actually happened or if I've kind of overlaid that as a memory, But I remember that distinct moment thinking, okay, if Christ is who he says he is, then this is really important, and I want to follow that, in that path and be part of that Christian community.
What does that feel to you? Like, what does Christ feel like to you?
Wow. So many different ways to say that, aren't there? I mean, I guess if I'm being really wishy-washy and abstract, I'd say something like the force in the universe, which is love, expressed as a human being.
That is wishy-washy. What?
It is, isn't it?
I want to know, you're an 8-year-old lad, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, I've just given my life.
Yeah.
What are you feeling at this point? What are you feeling of God? Like, is he going, Fandabby Dozy, Mark? Welcome.
I think so. I think so. I mean, I think even at that age, I'd heard parables like the lost sheep or I don't know, just where God's rejoicing is massive when somebody comes home. Yeah, alongside all of that, I suppose, in a kind of really suppressed way, I must have been kind of realising subconsciously that my sexuality didn't match up to that really traditional conservative sort of faith. And I think, like I say, that was in a really inexplicit way, because if you'd asked me, I'd have said, oh, no way, you can't be Christian and gay. That's just completely
So at the time,
not possible.
You believed
So I think I was in deep denial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But actually your faith said that being gay is wrong at this age.
Right, like right into my 20s.
Really?
I would have held on to that.
Wow. I'm really interested in that because you're starting to get these feelings of, well, I quite fancy his butt.
Yeah.
But, oh no, my faith's saying that's wrong. How are you wrestling with that?
Suppressing it.
So just you're denying you're fancying that bloke over
and
there.
you kind of know that, don't you? That's not something that you don't know inside yourself. But you kind of say to yourself, or I kind of said to myself, oh, that's just a phase. That's just something, And
what about women? Did you go out date women and stuff?
Not really. Not really. I think back in those Youth for Christ days I was talking about, I kind of went out with a friend of mine, but we never got that far for obvious reasons because I just didn't feel it. Yeah. But I mean, we got on really well. I knew that, we got on really well, but there was also something missing there.
And so, I suppose being a Christian helps here because, we can't have sex before marriage because the Bible says we can't.
Totally.
Actually,
yeah. So it doesn't really matter if you
gay guy. It's perfect.
Totally. It doesn't matter if you don't. You're allowed to keep in your denial. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Really
totally that. Yeah. Absolutely that.
So do you think quite a few gay guys are like, I'll become a Christian so I don't have to come out?
No, I don't think...
That's not...
I'm not sure it works that way around. But there's a lot of Christians who don't come out because... Yeah. Or come out late because you kind of suppress that. Incidentally, that particular person, Catherine, we've always kept in touch. I was her witness at her wedding in Australia and, we see each other every couple of years.
And did she know?
I don't know. She never said anything. But actually, I mean, really weirdly, and this is one of those kind of coincidences, if you could call it that, or perhaps it's sort of one of those things, those gifts that God gives. But a few years later, this is coming back to the person that I met at Spring Harvest. One of his best friends went to uni with Catherine, who I went out with in those days. So a few years previously. So that's how we actually got back in touch.
That is lovely, isn't it?
I know. So we all meet up as a big group these days, where kind of everyone's there.
So you're at Spring Harvest.
Yeah.
The suppressed 20-something you.
Yeah, and so this other guy had been invited by some mutual friends. I'd thought, oh, that's an interesting person. Nice to get to know him better. He said, oh, let's go out one night to one of the pubs in town, have a chat, and he just puts his hand on my leg and says, I think you're lovely. And that just completely, it was almost like it was a complete revelation. It sort of, I don't know, it opened some kind of door, I suppose, for me. And I thought, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, of course. That's how it all fits together.
Yeah.
So then I had to do the hard work of... we ended up being together for about 10 or 12 years. 10 years. But then I had to do the really hard work of revisiting what I thought God wanted, or what I thought the Bible said.
So did you think at that point, I can't do this because it goes
briefly, briefly.
But this is a sin. Like, I'm snogging you, but I'm sinning.
Briefly, yeah. I think that probably lasted a week or two, actually, because I started doing some of that work and thinking, okay, have other people been on this journey? What if this is just something that Christians disagree about, rather than something that there's a really clear single answer to? Because there's big issues, aren't there, like whether the resurrection happened or not. And then there's all those side issues, like whether you're baptised as a child or an adult, or whether, I don't know, whether your church has a bishop or doesn't, or even has a minister. Do you know, there's all that side stuff that really doesn't matter, that we do differently. And it's like, is that stuff about sexuality actually the heart of things? Or is it just a side thing that you can do one way or another, and it's, that's okay? So it was about sort of, I think I thought that fairly quickly. Actually, I need to look into this, but actually this isn't a simple thing. It's probably not as simple as I was taught.
Yeah.
And of course it isn't when you look into it. When you start to think, and I don't know why I hadn't done this work. I think it's because I was deeply in denial, because I should have done it sooner. Just, even if it wasn't me, just to do right by other people.
So did you have any gay friends at that point?
Not really, see. So I don't think I'd had to do it, because if you don't have gay friends, it's always about someone quite distant and far away. It's not you don't have to do the hard work, I suppose, in a way. But I should have done. Like justice says, really, that I should have thought about what it felt like to be, to be someone else. But
and I suppose if you're in denial, then you're not going to let yourself go through.
No, exactly that. Yeah. You don't want to do it, because what does it say about you? And then maybe you have to change. So, and change is hard, because it means telling people, and it means risking that some people will say, actually, we reject you. So I think that was the big risk. It's like, if I tell people now, will they say they don't want me to be with them anymore? Will my church say, we don't want you? So I did that kind of theological work till I was happy myself, till I was happy that God loved me whoever I was.
And why do you think that then? What convinced you from your theological...
I think partly because the Bible is written in particular cultures. I think they're really different to our culture. I think people knew a lot less about all sorts of things, certainly about human health, mental health, psychology, how human beings tick. I think they had all sorts of their own cultural reasons for doing things a particular way. But I think Jesus never talks in a condemnatory way about gay people. And I'm not sure even Paul does, even though there are certain passages that you can interpret that way. I think actually he's probably talking about something else. And I think actually when you really revisit those scriptures, there's a good argument for saying that Jesus completely accepts a centurion who probably had a gay lover, and saying that Paul actually, when he talks about there being no male and female, no Jew or Gentile in Christ, no slave or free, I think he's actually working his way towards seeing how grace breaks down all of those categories and barriers. And I think being gay or straight is another one of those. I don't think Paul perhaps quite reached that point. He lived in a different time, but I think he's working his way in that direction. And I think that's exactly what he's talking about when he talks about grace. The other passage that really impacts me is where Peter has a vision of what's clean and unclean, and God says, "Okay, go up on the roof." And he goes into a trance, has the sheets being lowered down from heaven. It's full of animals that are clean and unclean, things that Jews really shouldn't be eating and touching. And the voice says, kill and eat, or something like that. So it actually breaks down all of those distinctions. And I think that's kind of what's happening in the early church. People are just beginning to realise that actually it's not about all the rules and regulations. It's just about the grace of God. It's about that love and that just sheer acceptance being way beyond all of that stuff. And they're just realising it and glimpsing it. And then kind of, I think just so much stuff, the culture around them, the church, as a hierarchy, all gets in the way. And so I think some of that radicalism got lost on the way. And it did about all sorts of things. I think it did about what people do with their money as well, to be honest. But sticking to sexuality. Yeah. And I think, we're only just recovering some of that sort of incredible freedom and sort of real awareness of the real breadth of the love of God. And I think grace means to me that it's okay to take a risk on that. It's okay to say, I think God loves me enough to accept me. I think God treats me just as equal as the straight person next to me. And I think that is a leap of faith, because if I find out one day God didn't think that way, then
but I've had a great life.
Then that's not good. That's not a good outcome. But it's also about trusting in that grace, that love will still be there for me, even if I'm wrong about that.
I think it's intention as well, isn't it? Like, I think that I love God more because I love joy, and I've understood love a lot more since loving joy, and therefore I can love God at a different level.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But that's like my journey.
Yeah, no, I really agree that. I think that's one thing I learned through meeting Ian, was that actually, you learn more about God through others, and that kind of, the gift of a relationship like that is exactly that. And why should people who aren't straight not also have that experience, that gift? I think, one other thing that took me there was actually rethinking gender, because I think it's kind of parallel journey. I think I was brought up in a church where women could basically wash up in the kitchen, lead the prayer meeting for other women, but not ever when there was a man. There's a big debate about whether they could take up the collection on Sunday morning, for goodness sake. And I think gradually I just grew to see that, of course, women have the same gifts as men. So why on earth would they not be doing the same stuff? And I suppose I then, a few years later, had to do that journey with being gay and think, well, actually, if God's made me like this and gifted me like this, then why on earth would I suppress all that and deny all that and not be the person that I'm intended to be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you got it there. Yeah. I love that. I do want to go back to money because I think that's a really interesting one. And you say it got tied up. So what are your thoughts on tithing then?
Oh, wow. Yeah. No, I mean, I believe in tithing. I think I was brought up to, and I think it's really important. And I think it goes way beyond that, actually. I think that's a starting point. I think it's a really good discipline because I think it reminds you that it doesn't all belong to you. I just think the witness of the whole Bible, the Old and New Testament, is that everything comes from God and that it's all a gift. So we should be freer about giving it away. I think the 10% is just a symbol about that. It's just a sign of that. It's just a kind of like a way of saying, yeah, I acknowledge that. But then I think sometimes you're just moved to give something else. It's just like, and I've always felt that the Spirit just moves you and says, okay, now make a commitment to this. Or
give us an example. What's your best one?
No, I want you to support that. I'll go right back because it links to the Congo, actually. Just even as a student, I remember going to a meeting and there was this guy who was about to go out to the Congo on a mission trip to a mission hospital to help out. He was a nurse, so it was kind of relevant. The hospital was relevant. It wasn't just a random person who thought he could do some good somewhere. You know, it was quite well thought through. I just thought, I've got to give towards that. I just knew that night. I thought, right, I've got to put a gift into that. I've got to make a commitment to that because that's what I'm called to do. And I just know sometimes, I think it's really hard to explain, sometimes I just know. And that was the start of my connection with the Congo, actually. And really tragically, and it's another whole story, he was killed in a car accident on that trip. But what came out of that was actually me meeting Ian at Spring Harvest, and then it was Ian who went out to DRC. It's his aunt who ran that hospital. He'd been out a few times to the hospital, but then he went to observe the elections in the early 2000s, I guess it was, sometime in the 2000s, 2010s maybe, 2010s. And then while he was there, again, felt that really strong calling to set up a project for street children. And I guess you know a calling when you hear it. I think, how do you explain something like that? It's just you know it, don't you? You feel it so intensely that this is what I must do next. So, and that's kind of, and that was really challenging for me because in a way that was the end of our relationship. It took another couple of years to work its way out because he then went out to Africa for 4 years to work and set up this project for street children. So we didn't kind of survive that. And there were lots of other reasons. That wasn't the only reason. But I became a trustee of the charity that we kind of co-founded to support that work and still am. So, and I think, again, that's a sense of calling. I went out to visit, we both did a project visit to visit the local diocese who the project works with. And just by the end of that trip, I knew that we had to set up a charity and we had to kind of carry that vision forward. And I suppose linking back to financial generosity, I knew that meant making financial commitments to that, kind of giving to that, making sure that got off the ground and happened. So it wasn't, it's not just about time, it's about money too. It's about it.
Yeah.
I've always thought if faith is real, it has to hit you where it hurts. You can't then cling on to everything and say, but this is all still mine.
And that's hard.
No, I know, because you think, I could actually be doing this. I could be living in this bigger house, or I could be going on a holiday to wherever. And kind of, you have to think, well, actually, maybe those things aren't that good for me. Maybe this is actually better for me.
And it is, I really loved what you said around it's not ours, it's God's. And if you get that into your head, then God is generous and he's going to provide.
Completely generous.
But equally...
Yeah.
I think it's one of the hardest lessons that you constantly have to be
Yeah.
going back to.
You do. It's really hard, isn't it? And I think one thing that I've really learned being treasurer, I didn't want to be treasurer of Congo Children Trust, but the treasurer
You
left.
always get the jobs, don't you?
She left to work in Kenya and kind of wasn't there anymore, so someone had to do it. So I kind of learned how to do that. But the amazing thing about it, the thing that always fills me with hope, and it's kind of like confirmation of faith, is that the money always comes in. And just sometimes you think, oh, it's all running really low, and then someone is just moved to write a cheque, or someone needs a legacy, or whatever it is, someone holds a fete in their church, or whatever it is, I always think of that as the Spirit moving, because it's not necessarily that we've said we're running low, it's just that someone has been moved to give. And sometimes we do, I'm not saying we never do an appeal, but I see it more as a spiritual thing, that the Spirit moves, and if what we're doing is right, the Spirit moves and releases some of that generosity from someone.
I love that. So I'm going back to your relationship. So you're living together, I assume, after this many years?
Didn't. No, we lived in different places for all of that time, really.
Oh, really?
And one of there were loads of barriers, really. I didn't tell my family for years. I just couldn't actually bring myself to, because I knew it would really hurt them. I actually told my brother quite early because I knew he'd be really accepting. But but I didn't tell my parents for quite a long time. And I think that actually did damage to our relationship. I think that was uncourageous of me. It was cowardly, actually. We actually, in the end, we found a counsellor, a brilliant lesbian priest in Manchester who had been a professional counsellor for years. And she just really generously, talking of generosity, gave us her time for months and months of sessions that were incredibly valuable to me in helping me make that journey. It didn't actually hold our relationship together, but I think it helped us both to process lots of stuff. And really powerfully, she said to me at one point, sit down and write down what you would say to your parents if you had that conversation. So I wrote this letter, and then I thought, actually, why don't I just give it to them? If I can't do it in words, now I've written this letter, I'm kind of most of the way there. So in the end, that's how I did it, because that was just the only way I knew how to do it or could find how to do it. But that was really because of the generosity of the time that she offered us. And in the end, we said, what do you want us to do about this? And she said, just set up a standing order to Wells for India. Yeah. Just give to my favourite charity, basically.
That's brilliant.
So
actually, an act of kindness. You say generosity, I'd say kindness.
Yeah, well, it is. Yeah, it is. So, I've still got that standing order because I feel so grateful.
And so how did they take it with the letter?
Oh, it wasn't so great. I think they found it really hard. They were hurt. It was just hard, and it was a journey. They kind of, I think my brother helped them with that. They spent quite a bit of time talking to him. I think Mum by this time had joined a less conservative church, so I think the church were more open. So she was with a different group of people who were perhaps more, more open-minded, basically, more accepting. She could see that my church here was. In the meantime, I'd done a bit of a church journey. So I'd left the city I was in, and the church just, when they found out, they'd said, look, you've got to step down from leading worship. I'd been sort of, I'd led worship as, not I didn't play an instrument, I'm not that musical, but I'd done the kind of up the front stuff with the music group. I'd been a deacon, so I'd been part of the leadership team, and they were just at the point where they said, look, you can't do any of this anymore. So
they actually said to you, because you're gay, you've got to step down.
Yeah. But at that moment, I got the job here. So it was kind of the perfect way to step away
How were you feeling
'Cause
about that? Were you quite angry at the time? Or?
Yeah, but I said to myself, right, I'm just not going back there. I'm not. I don't mean back to that church. I love some of the people there, but I said, right, I'm joining a church that I know is completely accepting. I'm never going back to one. I will never be, join again one that says that can't accept me for who I am. Because that means they're turning away other people, who I want to welcome.
Yeah.
So I said to myself, right, I'd got the new job here. So, right, it's like starting again, start with a clean slate, find the place where it's okay to be me and it's okay to welcome other people like me and other categories of people, who aren't always welcome. So I found Wesley through Greenbelt, actually. I'd been to one of the LGBT sessions. It's like a really thriving LGBT community at Greenbelt.
So Greenbelt is a
big Christian festival.
When did you start going there then?
Well, I met Ian, actually. So, yeah, just we went to Spring Harvest once, actually, which is a more conservative festival. And then Greenbelt's a really open one. And, yeah, we just started going to that together.
Was it not weird not living together? Like 10 years is a long time to not live together.
Yeah, that was geography too. We were in different cities. We started off in London and Exeter, and then briefly we were in Exeter at the same time, but then I got the job here, so then we were in Exeter and here.
But you're not at any point in this relationship going, well, we need to make a decision here to live together?
I think always in the back of my mind, I suppose there's the coming out thing for me, but also the Africa thing. Just sort of... I think the other thing was that Ian wanted to adopt, and I kind of... I didn't really want that. I kind of knew that wasn't kind of my calling. So it's like... I suppose, you can't go to Africa as a gay couple.
Yeah, actually.
And longer term, when he'd come back from that, he knew that he absolutely wanted to adopt. So kind of, I suppose it was about both of us releasing each other from that not ever going to kind of be the case.
I mean, that's pretty brave to do that, isn't it? Because you clearly loved each other.
Yeah, very much. I know. I mean, we're still in really good touch. We still care about each other, But he then met someone else with whom he's adopted 3 children, and that kind of works really well. They both wanted that. Yeah. Those 3 children are a really good match for them. They're from different ethnic backgrounds, and so are the children. It just sort of all of that for them came together in such a good way that I wouldn't, that was the right thing. And I met Michael sort of fairly soon as well.
So but you talk about it wasn't my calling. So from your perspective, are you saying, I can't do this with you because I don't think it's what God wants me to do?
No, I don't know. No, I don't. No, it's not. It's not what I have the resources to do. It's not what I have the gifting to do, which I think is the other side of that same coin. I don't think you get called to do things that...
So what, you don't think you'd be a good dad? Is that what you're saying?
No.
I think you'd be a great dad.
Yeah, I think that would be okay. I think I could do that. I'm just not sure that I'm meant to be doing that, or that my resources are meant to go in that direction. But also, I think that's complicated because for me that would be about me and Michael, and I think I don't think for us adopting's a thing, if that makes sense. And we've thought it through, and we've had opportunities.
No, there's no right or wrong, is there?
And I don't think there is. I just don't think that would have been right for the kind of pressures that are on us in other bits of our lives or our jobs. Or I think, had I done that with Ian, it would have meant probably one of us giving up work. It would have, that there's all sorts of big decisions there, aren't there, about sort of what all those things mean in the balance of that relationship. And I think, I'm happy that wasn't for me, if you see what I mean.
And you don't know what you don't know, do you? It's like...
No, exactly. But I think that is partly about calling. I think it's, do you have that deep sense of, I need to do this. This is the right thing to do. This is the thing that...
No, I totally respect that. I think my point there was more around... Like, I interviewed a Muslim guy, and he has some rules around who he can meet.
Yeah.
And they have to be a woman of God. And I'm like, well, that's conditional love. You can't love someone just, you know...
Does that put your barrier up? Yeah.
So, but his faith was so strong that he would only... It was his calling to only meet someone. So
could that relationship even work?
Whereas... And so I was kind of exploring that from a Christian point of view. Is your faith with God so strong that you're turning away from a relationship with someone you love because it's not your calling? It's not what God...
I think it's more complex than that. Yeah. I think we were both probably called in different directions. Yeah. He definitely knew that he needed to have a family and to go to Africa. And I think I definitely knew that I didn't need to go to Africa. It doesn't mean that I can't support all of that.
Well, and clearly you've shown that commitment over the last...
But I didn't need to go and live there to do that. You know, I've visited several times and so on, but...
you like the cold too much,
I probably do, I should know.
Bacon butties.
Amongst other things. But actually, no, I mean, that's a stereotype. In DRC, it can get quite cold at night. Yeah, in the dry season, it can get quite cold at night. Yeah, so it's kind of... Do you know what I mean? We have all these stereotypes, don't we? That Africa is a certain thing. And of course, Africa is massive, and DRC is a massive, massive country too. So even then, I've just generalised, saying in DRC when I meant in Katanga, in that particular province, which is what I've experienced. But I just don't think. Yeah, it's about all sorts of stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
So let's move on, and let's talk about some happy stuff. How did you meet Mike?
Okay, we met online actually through a dating agency, quite a fussy one that asks you like dozens and dozens of questions about psychologically.
So I'm assuming a Christian dating.
No, it's a mixed one. Yeah, it takes gay and straight people. It's a German one called Parship.
Why didn't you go on a Christian one? Were you like, did it not matter if they were Christian or not?
I don't know if I know of I didn't know of that time of a Christian one that did LGBT dating.
I went on...
I think they exist now.
I went on one called Fusion 101.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the first guy I went on a date with, so it was straight then, I was too. So,
so that was
fine. The first thing he said to me was, I'm just letting you know I do believe in sex before marriage.
Let's get that out there straight away.
Like, if that's all you're thinking about, it's probably not going to work.
Top priority.
Right
now.
So I'm like, So, did you do lots of other dates before you met?
No, we were both the first one.
Oh, wow, how lucky.
I think, or were we? No, maybe Michael Michael might have been another one or two, actually, no. But that was the first one that I'd done, like post-Ian. Yeah, I mean, I just thought, okay, I need to get out there. I need to make this happen. I think I'd got to a point in my life where I was a bit less passive. I thought, right, you don't just sit there and see if you bump into someone, because when you're gay, that doesn't happen as often.
Yeah, you're reducing your pool, aren't you?
Reduce the pool quite a lot. So I thought, right, if I want this to happen, and I kind of, through all the counselling, I'd realised that I did want to be domestically happy with someone. I did want to, to have a partner. So, and I'd done all the coming out to mum and dad by that point, through all that counselling too. So that was kind of, okay, we've done all that. So that barrier's gone.
Ready.
The church barrier had gone, because I was here in a church that's completely welcoming and accepting. So I thought, right, let's get on with it. If I'm not meant to be with Ian long term, then I need to work out, I need to sort of, see if it's someone else. So we both joined, and we both ticked the box that said Northwest England. And so we were just like in the extreme corners. Like Chester's probably, I don't know, 20 miles from the southern border of the Northwest. He was in Carlisle, which is like, I don't know, about 5 miles from the Scottish border. So we were just like the complete extreme ends. But because we ticked that box, we were both in the same region and got matched up. So, and it was kind of one of those matches that was like 76% or something. So that's kind of good because it's not so much that you're just too similar. But there's enough there, if that makes sense.
Where did you meet?
So we met at. We talked before we met. Let's not rush it. Before we met, we talked a lot online.
And could you then, or was it MSN Messenger back then?
I can't remember. I think we emailed a lot actually.
Yeah.
I think there was
no
a message
FaceTime.
feature in the app for the dating site, or it was a website probably rather than an app. But I think then we just exchanged email addresses and emailed a lot, and then of course we exchanged phone numbers and started phoning. So we were pretty sure by that point we knew how much we had in common. We exchanged photos. But I mean, obviously you're still nervous because it's like, what is that person like in 3 dimensions? Yeah. But I mean, we were pretty sure because we talked so much that it wasn't a huge risk. So we met actually halfway. We met at a hotel in Lancashire, just off the M6. So it was kind of easy to get to. We had dinner. And that was, obviously that went really well.
So did you book a hotel room then?
Yeah.
Oh, blimey. You went for it then.
I know, but I think
That's brave.
We'd done a lot of, kind of. Michael took the camper van, so...
Oh, okay.
Parked it up in the car park, so it wasn't like...
There was a get out clause.
Yeah, exactly. There was a safety net. It wasn't like, it wasn't like all in for whatever happens, if that makes sense. So no, it was okay. Yeah, again, it's one of those, isn't it?
Yeah.
You think actually, that was quite a needle in a haystack, especially the first time I'd been on there. and I think for him that was probably only the second person he met from that. Yeah, I think it was.
I mean, God could have done that for me. I did so many bad dates.
I know,
honestly.
you just kind of
Thanks.
I know. But I think we were both just at that moment as well. I think he was kind of ready to move on from Carlisle to look for work elsewhere, to look for a new job. Had kind of exhausted where his job there was taking him. So
how long was it before you did go to the domestic bliss situation?
Not that long. No, only months.
Really? From when you first met?
Yeah. I think we met in the October. I think, and this is going to sound really quick. Was it really this quick? I think Michael had got the new job by January. Wow.
You know.
I feel in my head like I'm cutting out a whole year somewhere, but I don't care. No, it was pretty quick. And I think that was just all kind of green lights, if that makes sense. And then, so he moved in here and commuted to Manchester, which was quite tough for him, really. But kind of rather than find a flat in Manchester and both of us be travelling to and fro, we'd already done a few months of travelling to and fro to Carlisle, which was like massive trek. I think we just didn't want to do that travelling. Just
why wait
get
if
on
you
with it.
made your mind
Why
up?
wait? I mean, I was 40, he was 30-something. So, we just wanted to get on with it, I think, really.
And so in terms of things like integrating your life when you're an older couple getting together, had he been to Greenbelt before?
No. But I think he was really open to that. I think he'd been a bit burnt out by church. I think coming out, that wasn't something that was possible in the church that he was in. I think, and he kind of walked away from the church rather than do that. And I think also his mother had died around the same time, and I think his whole life had been wrapped up with, and I shouldn't really speak for him, but sort of that whole cancer journey with her, and I think he'd sort of taken a break from church, but was kind of ready to come back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
And to come back to a different context where where that's an accepting place, that, you know, it's okay to be gay. So I think that was a good process for him.
And so, was it, it sounds like, so you kind of intermingled your lives, because you've got quite a life at that age. You know, when you're kids, you've got a lot of commitments. Like, how did he get involved in the Congo work?
Yeah, he kind of threw himself in. But I think it meant him giving up more than me, obviously, because he moved from Carlisle. So, but his life had moved on a bit. He'd been going, like, every weekend in the summer, camping at Ullswater with a whole crowd of friends who had gradually met partners, and some of them beginning to have children, and that whole phase was kind of drawing to a close. That whole group was gradually moving on, and he was kind of aware that, you know, he was kind of left a bit alone, I suppose, in some ways. Like, lots of his friends had...
Oh. And are you married?
Yeah, we're civil partnered, actually.
Okay.
We're civil partnered with a church blessing. And that was what we could do at the time. And we have toyed with upgrading.
Upgrading?
In inverted commas. But I mean, that word kind of says it all, really. It's like, now we can, obviously, in the Methodist Church, we can get married. But I don't feel like we need to. If we were doing it, I think it would be a gesture for the church, which is fine, to say, let's celebrate, we can all do this now, because the church has been wanting that for a while too, and kind of had to move at the pace of the Methodist Church nationally, which kind of did a lot of consultation and moved gently with people. I think it was a good process in that it left room for everybody to think slightly differently to each other, and for individual churches to decide, you know, what they wanted to do. Which I think that was good. It didn't sort of split by, you know, saying we're all doing this now. It left people a bit of space to...
You're quite gracious about that, and you're not like, for pity's sake.
I do feel like I get impatient. Yeah, I've got impatient along this process, and I thought sometimes, look, you know, this has been long enough now. The rest of society's got over it. You know, why can't the church? But I do think people need to move at their pace. I do think some of it's generational. You know, people were brought up, some of those older people, they were brought up in a space where homosexuality was illegal, where you didn't even talk about it, you know, and I think they've already come on quite a journey. You know, I don't know how far, some of those go all the way. You know, I know older people who are completely on board, you know, and have been since the 1960s. But there are others, I think, for whom that's a longer, slower journey. I think they interpret the Bible in a different way, and we have to give them room to do that. I think that's about freedom, partly. I think it's about the grace of accepting each other. It's about... He's beginning to get hungry, isn't he? Scratching post. It's the grace of saying, yeah, we can live with each other, even though we're different. So I think that's kind of the point the Methodist Church got to. It said, yeah, we can live with each other, we're different, but this is a secondary thing. This isn't like fundamental to our relationships with each other. And we've had centuries of one answer being imposed on us. Would it be right for us then to turn straight round and then impose our answer on those people for whom that's difficult? You know, and say, you're out if you don't believe this. Go and join your own, you know, go and find another church somewhere else. Would it be right for us to say that? And I kind of don't think it necessarily would, as long as we are able to create spaces that are fully inclusive and accepting and welcoming, and as long as the church nationally is able to say, we are welcoming. There may be congregations that find that more difficult, and there may be individuals that find that more difficult within that overall direction of travel.
So talk to me, because you talked about inclusion and acceptance, and Wesley is a Methodist church in Chester that are very welcoming.
Yeah.
So why did you set up Open Table, which is a space for specifically for gay people, LGBTQIA?
Really good question. Yeah, because I think there are a lot of barriers, particularly for people who've been really hurt by the church, to walking straight into a morning service that's full of straight people and quite traditional in some way. I think that's just not necessarily where everyone's at. And I think that would be fine. I think they would find, and people have found, there are people in that morning service who, and me too, who went there and found that was a great place to be in terms of acceptance. That nobody ever said, "What are you doing here? We don't agree with you," nothing like that. And welcome and acceptance is preached from the pulpit. It's experienced by us because of the way people treat us, so that is a really welcoming, inclusive space. But I think for some people there are some barriers to doing that, and I think we wanted there to be a space where people would take that journey a bit more gradually, perhaps, and be in a much more, not that straight people don't come to Open Table, because they do, because part of it is about welcoming them too, and a lot of those straight people that come actually need a kind of explicit affirmation because they've got family members who are queer in one way or another. And I think having that space means that, it just feels a bit different. It feels, we can put lots of rainbow flags up and it's explicitly our space. We can invite speakers who are speaking into our situation and kind of understand what it's like to live that from the inside. And I think that's a bit different to kind of just a mainstream service, which is meeting the needs of a really wide spectrum of people from different ages and backgrounds and life stages. I think it's kind of just something a bit more specific that says, okay, this is for us. We can explore a bit more sort of what it feels like to be both gay and Christian.
And actually, you do Pride, don't you, through that as well?
Yeah.
Why do you do that? What's that?
So this year, the way we've sort of divvied it up is that Wesley's leading on the parade and we're kind of Open Table's leading on the presence in the wellbeing tent. So I think that's about, and the first time we did that was a group of us at Wesley just said to each other, why are the protesters, the people with the yellow placards that come from quite an extreme church and preach judgment on LGBT people, why a rejection? Why are they the only voice here? We sort of went to Pride and it's like, but where's the Christian voice that says, no, it's fine. God loves you, accepts you, wants you to come on board. And I think we'd kind of seen those protesters, and then also we saw in front of them stood a really generous group of people, young people from the other side of Cheshire, I forget whether it's Maxfield or Crewe or somewhere, who had just made a placard saying, God loves you. And they stood in front of those people with another message. But they didn't do it because they were Christian. They just did it because they knew that there was there was another message to give. And I thought, the Christians aren't out there with that welcoming message. So someone without a kind of specific faith commitments come to give that message. God has called them anyway. He gave up waiting for the church to get there and called someone else to go and do it. I thought, wow, that means we've got to go and do that next year. So we just made a banner and got out there and did it next year,
And so, as we come to the end of the podcast, we always talk about acts of kindness, and in terms of us as a community, what would you say in terms of supporting the community? What can we do? What stuff can people do that would make you feel more supported?
Wow, that's huge. First of all, which community?
I'm gonna say being a gay Christian, actually, because I think there's a lot of challenge there.
Yeah. Wow. I think things have changed so much, actually. That's a really hard question to answer, because I don't think we feel as small and vulnerable as we used to, which is really lovely. So that means that's not a place of needing so much. But I think, having said that, I think there are people out there who are really hurting. They really feel rejected, deeply rejected, by faith communities who they thought they were completely at the heart of, and who taught them about the love of God and then turned around and didn't quite do it. And I think And that's a huge level of hurt, actually, to be told that you're loved and then that love to be made conditional. It's massive, isn't it? So I think actually accept those people and point them towards us and come and be part of that community to help create that welcoming space. There's people come along who've spent years outside church and have been kind of longing to find a way of coming back, or a way where they can bring their faith and their sexuality together in the same place, and it's okay, instead of being compartmentalised and having to kind of reject one or the other and push it under. So I'd say, the more there are of us hosting, the more that welcome can be real.
Like signpost people towards the open table. Get involved. If you meet someone, welcome them.
If you are LGBT, get involved. If you know someone, point them along. Yeah, just help them to see that there's a welcome, and also tell them that if they want a church wedding, they can get married at Wesley. It's about kind of spreading that message that there is a place where people can. There's actually a couple getting married on Pride Sunday who really wanted a church wedding, and one of them had a faith background, and it's just such a joy that the church can now do that.
Yeah.
We can be the place that says, yeah, that's okay, that's fine.
I think I've got one that might be a bit controversial.
Yeah.
So I've been part of a church where I was excluded because of being in a relationship with a woman.
Yeah.
And other people knew about it.
Yeah.
And it was only when I did my interview that the person's like, you're not really angry about it. And at the time I was like, well, not really.
Yeah.
And I think if you're in a church, straight, whoever, and you know someone's being excluded because of their sexuality, then I think actually you should be standing up for that person.
Yeah,
you should be shouting out about it.
I think you're right. And that's almost what I was talking about earlier when I said, before I realised that was me, why wasn't I standing up for those people? Why wasn't I saying, why wasn't I questioning that until it touched me? And I think that is something I'd like to say to everyone. Yeah, think about the people who are excluded and do some work on their behalf, because that means a lot.
And it really saddens me that there's so many churches you can't go to. In fact, you have to go to Wesley. Like, where else do you know where there's a church that people are accepted?
Yeah.
I don't know of one. I've been part of a few.
Yeah, I mean, there are churches where LGBT people are really welcome, but there are Church of England ones who would want the Church of England to move faster, but because it hasn't moved faster, they still can't do some of the things they'd want to, like marry people, So they have limits put on how welcoming they can be, I suppose, because of that wider context. Even though as a congregation, they would be really welcome. They are really welcome.
Well, but also, so...
Oh, the United Reformed Church. Actually, no, the URC churches, a lot of them nationally are licensed for gay weddings. Locally, they are.
But that's only part of the picture, I think. For
but it's
me,
only part of the picture,
it's like being allowed to be part of a leadership team.
Yeah.
That's equality.
Yeah, and that's where, like I say, certain churches have got that. The Methodist Church, the URC, have got there. Other ones, I think, are working their way there. I think there are certain CV churches where that's fine, but there are even certain Baptist churches that have got there now. So I think there were people on a journey there. But yeah, I think it's slow. I think it's taking too long. And I think I completely understand why lots of LGBT people say, I want nothing to do with the church, because it's just not making the effort. It's just too slow, or just not saying anything that touches me.
And what else? Anything else that we've not picked up that we can do as a community?
Yeah, I mean, show people that love.
Yeah.
Be pointers, be symbols, be pointers, be kind of the people who say, no, it's okay. You're loved, you're accepted.
And do you know what? Speaking to you, I feel quite hopeful. I think you've seen a lot of changes in your lifetime.
Massive.
So actually things are, and you get a bit frustrated, but actually things are moving forward, and you've seen that change. And
Yeah.
So I think it's actually quite positive.
It's kind of the sum of lots of individual journeys that people are doing, and they're at different stages on that. But I talk to people who I know are still in relatively conservative churches, but they don't believe what their church believes. They've moved way beyond that.
And do you think if you were born in this generation, you'd have been out and proud at 14?
Probably. I do sometimes think that. Yeah, I sometimes think, wow, that's... And I know, and that's true of young people I know in accepting churches. They come out in their youth group, they come out when they're teenagers. Beautiful. I know people who are doing that and have done that. And that's amazing and beautiful. Yeah. So it is happening now.
Yeah.
And hopefully more and more.
And so what can we do as a community to ensure that journey keeps moving forward? I guess things like pride and...
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, standing up, being seen. I think, and keep talking to those people, keep that dialogue going, keep talking to those people who do have a different point of view. Because I think when they meet real people, then that's sometimes what changes things. And they say that we are still people of faith, that we haven't walked away from our faith because we're gay. We actually experience grace, we experience the love of God, we're living out the gifts that we're given.
Yeah.
We're still on that walk, on that journey of faith. And I think that is really challenging for people who think that you can't be gay and Christian. Meeting real people who are both in an integrated way. I think that's really powerful. So I think we shouldn't... don't walk away. Don't lose contact with the people who think differently. Keep talking to them.
It's quite a challenge, that.
It's a massive challenge, because you're talking to someone who's rejecting you, essentially.
Well, because I have to say I'm not part of a church anymore.
No.
And it's not...
No, and I get that.
It's not really because of that. Just to be honest, after when lockdown happened, I've never really gone back.
No.
But actually, maybe I need to become part of a church just so I am the difference.
I think... I don't know, I don't judge anyone who's made whatever decision.
No.
For some people, they need to take a break. For some people...
And I think, actually, I don't know whether I believe in the church that strongly. I believe in God strongly
Yeah.
and certainly walk my whole life around what I think God wants me to be doing. But I do miss a good sing-song, I'm not going to lie. I love a good sing-song. I don't really get
and that's one thing
that
that is possible in a big group of people.
Yeah.
And I suppose... and there are some things we can do in community, aren't there? There are some things, sometimes expressing that collective welcome to others, we can do together quite powerfully. Or, I don't know. But like I say, I don't want to judge anyone who's not chosen that, because I don't think those things are simple and those choices are simple.
It's worth thinking about.
We're at different stages in our lives and so on and so on. But
I will reflect on that, Mark. Thank
you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, wow, that's a lot, isn't it?
It was.
Need editing.
Yeah. Sorry, Jonah. So I'll be sure.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Curious Chats and Kind Acts. It was lovely to have you. Can I just say a massive thank you to all the people that we've interviewed who have been so honest and vulnerable with me, so that we can have these real life stories to share with you, our wonderful listener. And remember, we'd love to hear what random or small acts of kindness you've been up to, so that we can maybe do a few. Find us on all the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and all our /ActsGB, that's ACTSGB. And drop a comment on our feed, tweet us, or even send a photo. Let's build our kindness community together. We'll read some of our favourites on future episodes of Curious Chats and Kind Acts. And you never know, we might even have a go at a few of your ideas ourselves. Watch this space on the socials. For more information about the Acts charity, including how to donate to us, head to actsonline.uk. See you next time!